This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, there you go. Now we're officially on the clock here. So Jeff, welcome to our meeting. And if
Thank
you
you.
want to take the next at bat and introduce yourself to the other folks here.
Be happy to. Hi, Patrick. Hi, James. Nice to meet you. Rhoda and I are already old friends from about 10 minutes ago. Um, so, my name is Jeff Sachs, and I'm an independent AFLAC agent. So, I'm in the supplemental insurance business. Haven't always been. It's really new. Just like Rhoda mentioned that you got that letter due to COVID, something you'd never had happen before. Well, I was also looking for something different due to COVID. The center that I worked in, the school that I worked in, was shut down due to COVID, and I was sitting at home trying to figure out what to do with this next stage of my life, and had to reinvent myself. And so I was sitting at home, and I started getting my insurance licenses, and um, I ended up eventually getting a call from Aflac, and I liked their value proposition. I liked what they had to say about what I could bring to the people that I was dealing with. And so I'm pretty new at that. It's probably been about a year. So I'm just getting some traction. In all fairness, the first 6 months of the year were somewhat wasted because in this business, the only way to really grow your business is through cold calling, and I was very reluctant. So I've tried more networking, and while it's been a lot of fun, it's a slow burn. It takes longer. It's just not the same as reaching out to 100 clients a day, right? Um, so Aflac, most people know the duck. Most people don't know what we really do. Aflac is a uh, supplemental voluntary insurance company. So we have insurance for employees, also for individuals that cover what major medical doesn't. So that means, for example, co-pays or premiums things that you might have come out of pocket with. So you go to the hospital, you stop earning income. How do you pay your bills? It's all those things, separate and apart. It's very inexpensive, relatively speaking. It's not like major medical where it's hundreds or thousands. It's about an average week's pay for most employees, about 1 hour out of their weekly pay is what it would cost for them to get some insurance. And it's fun. It's cool. I get to talk in front of groups, which is what I like to do. Um, and I had the privilege of meeting Sal through another meetup, and I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic, excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us and welcome again. And Patrick, if you want to take your turn at bat and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thanks very much, and my apologies for being late. And a big shout out to you, Sal, for all the good work you're doing, pulling us all together every fortnight. And you deserve a break. You deserve a break. I think go to Cuba maybe for Christmas or something. I'm not sure. But hello, everybody. I'm Patrick. I'm from the west of Ireland, and I'm in the space of reimagining health and reimagining our wealth. And these are two areas that are really important. And because when we reimagine healthcare, it's based on a greater understanding of how the body, health, and disease actually work. Because science is now pointing to a whole new level, the cellular level, using groundbreaking redox signaling technology, helping us to protect, rejuvenate, and keep our cells functioning at an optimum level. Now, it all starts with amplifying and clarifying the critical cell signaling, and the difference it is making in most people's lives is absolutely astonishing. For many people, this is now the missing link between better health and vitality. It's independently validated and it's 100% non toxic, which is wonderful. And it's enabling us to have a real advantage. And these redox signaling molecules introduces a higher level of health because it goes beyond nutrition beyond ingredients and impacts the body at a depth that no other supplement has ever come close to achieving. And for example, improving your metabolism. So my wish is to connect with people who have a health challenge, people who are health conscious, or those who are interested in generating an additional income stream. My details are in the chat, and I would love to talk to you. And we have a Christmas coming up here, and it's bigger here than I think it is in America. But you have a Thanksgiving where all the turkeys die and they're eaten, and ours is coming up on the 25th of this month. So I'm not sure what the difference is, but thank you.
Perfect. By the way, it's funny because we've been doing this for so long now that I feel like I know Rhoda and Patrick in person, and I don't. I just know them from these meetings. But again, it feels like I know them in person. And the reason I say that is I actually know James in person because he's here in the Pittsburgh area, and we used to do when way back, way before the coronavirus, when we would do our meetings in person over lunch. James would come by and join us. So I'm glad he's able to join the virtual one. So James, I think you got the idea. If you want to take a minute or two to introduce yourself to the rest of the group. Oh, and Patrick, thank you for reminding me. Please put your contact information in the chat because when I send out the recording of the video later tonight, I will also send the chat information. So if people want to get in touch with you to set up one-on-one meetings or ask you other questions or use your services, whatever, please make sure they have a way of getting in touch with you. So again, James, over to you.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to join your group. Yeah, we used to do the meetings in person at South Point in Pennsylvania at the Chop House. And unfortunately, I think the Chop House has gone out of business. But when I was trying to log in today, I was trying to do it from my laptop computer, but it just wouldn't let me in. It kept on asking me for enter a session ID or name. I was putting your name in with the underscore, but it's just not going through. So I can't put anything into chat because I don't know how to do that on my cell phone. Anyway, moving on.
Just email it to me, and I'll just add it right to the email.
Hopefully, in the future, I can access this through my computer as opposed to my cell phone. Anyway, so I am in the lending business. So been helping customers for 25 years, pretty good at what I do. I can help people with commercial loans, business loans, and residential loans. For commercial loans and business loans, I can help someone anywhere in the country. For residential loans, it would be in just the two states of Pennsylvania and Florida. I recently added Florida because I have so many people who are retiring and they're all moving to Florida. I guess they didn't hear about all the hurricanes that are happening down there. But guess that's where people want to be. They don't want to experience the cold temperatures that we have up here in the east. We've had pretty mild temperatures in November and December now in southwestern Pennsylvania, but the two cold months are just about ready to happen in January and February. So that's what I can do. Jeff, being you're in with Aflac, even though I can't look at your information, I would like to talk to you sometime because there's something else I can offer to help you in the Aflac business. But anyone have any questions about any commercial loans, business loans? I'm an open book.
I do, James. The whole world of money is something I know nothing about. So that's the first thing. And
okay.
You get these emails and LinkedIn's, and jump on and learn about how you can make 3% and 4% a week, and how this is money. 5 billion a day is being traded on the international money markets, and I'm trying to look at this from an ethical point of view. I mean, if I was investing in whatever, I wouldn't want to be investing in armaments, for instance, and
In
I
what?
wouldn't in armaments. in buying arms.
Okay.
Like guns, rockets, tanks, that kind of
Yeah,
Oh,
stuff.
okay. Yeah.
tanks. I hadn't thought of tanks.
Hmm.
But um, or I wouldn't like to be I wouldn't like to invest in vulture funds that were buying with say mortgages from banks and then raising the interest rates and causing a whole load of social problems and stuff like that. So what's your advice there?
I'm not in investing. I'm in lending.
Yeah, but you must organize money for people who want to lend
To
for people
borrow.
who want to borrow.
Right.
So how do we as individuals ensure that what we're doing is ethical?
Is ethical
Yeah,
as far as borrowing money.
borrowing and lending money and
Okay.
Patrick, let
trading
me
in
say this.
money.
Maybe this will help you. The way I understand it, and James, you can correct me, but James is an intermediary, sort of a matchmaker. On the one hand, there's the people that do the loans for somebody to buy a mortgage. So that
Yeah.
could be a bank or another institution. And then there's an individual or a family that wants to buy a house and needs a mortgage. And he puts them together and he can take the information from that individual and present it to different banks, different organizations. But I guess what I'm trying to say is James doesn't raise the money. James doesn't set the parameters. Those are set by the money. The bank raises the money. The bank sets the parameters for the loan, and then James just tries to do the best match possible between what the individual and the family needs versus what the bank can offer them.
I think that's a wonderful service, but I'm just looking at the banking sector and the way money is moving at lightning speed around the world, and how do we know what our pensions are invested in? How do we know what our savings are invested in? How do we know what's happening? But then, as I discussed this one fellow, he says, I don't care where it comes from. I just want it. I just want the dividends. And I just I was probably an unfair question, James, in a
No,
way.
no, not yeah. Well, not compared to what I do, but maybe you should pick up the phone and call the Fed chairman of the United States, and that person could give you a better overall type thing. But interesting about this subject, I was just reading something in the New York Times. Someone had created one of these sort of like a Bitcoin type of investment, whatever they call that whole thing there. And he had a young man, 31 years old, had 31 billion invested in whatever, not Bitcoin, but another thing like that. And about I think it was back in October, they had to declare bankruptcy. So all the
Mm.
people that invested their money, $31 billion, whoosh, it's gone.
Are
So
you talking about
uh,
FTX, by the way?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
could
think
be,
it's got to
so.
could
be.
be, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's it. That's it. That was in the article. Yeah. Uh huh.
Yeah.
Patrick, I might be able to at least help you to get a little bit of a leg up on what you could look at. So on the weekends, as I'm building my Aflac business, I'm actually paying my bills by doing weekend trading and investing seminars for a school, the one that I've been with for 15 years. And what you might want to do is if you do a quick computer search
Yeah.
for ESG investing, it's really investing in what would be more environmentally friendly, sustainable companies. Might be more in line with what where your mindset is at in terms of where you'd like your money to be.
Thank you,
Um,
Jeff. Thank
Hopefully
you.
that'll be
That's
helpful.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what they
Well,
call it. That's yeah.
the other thing you have to keep in mind, Patrick, is there's no pure plays sort of in either direction. And by that, I mean, I'll give you an example. At one point, people said, oh, I don't want to invest in tobacco companies, cigarette companies, because
Yeah.
they're making this terrible product that's giving people cancer and et cetera, et cetera. And, but the problem is those companies have diversified. So now not only do they have their traditional tobacco products, but they have all kinds of, canned foods, cold foods, all sorts of other sort of consumer products. So, if you don't want to invest in tobacco, that's fine. But now you're not investing in this company that's providing all these other foods for people, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The other one that comes to my mind, and again, this is from a long, long time ago, is there was a company, and don't quote me on any of this, but I think it was called Olin, Olin, and they made ammunition. So for handguns. So you just say, okay, fine, I don't want to invest in Olin because they make ammunition for handguns. Well, guess what? They made all sorts of other chemicals too for all sorts of other industries, for all sorts of products that I think in general we would find valuable. So if you're not investing in them because they're making ammunition, you're also not investing in all these other good products that help people and from
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
chemicals, right? So
yeah,
so again, it's very hard because there's no pure plays.
yeah. Thank you, sir. A very good point. Thank you, James and Jeff.
Well, let's see. I'm going to introduce myself real quick, just for the record, and then we'll open it up for any other questions or conversations. So my name is Sal Acosta. I think actually most of you know me. Sometimes I even forget to introduce myself. But I'm a business broker. I help people buy and sell businesses. So if you ever run into anybody that wants to buy or sell a business, please let me know. And the beautiful thing about these video chats is I used to work basically in the Pittsburgh area, maybe a 2 hour driving radius around Pittsburgh. But now I'm working with people all over the country. As long as you're willing to do the business over video chat, and 98% of the process can be done over video chat. So that's really interesting and exciting and invigorating for me that we don't have to be geographically bound anymore. Um, all right. So with that, are there any more questions related specifically to the introductions? No. All right. Let me ask you guys this, and I'll ask two questions together because they're sort of interrelated, but anybody can answer one or the other or both because you are all small business owners. Okay, you may not have a retail brick and mortar like a restaurant or a bar or a shoe store, but you guys are all independent business owners and dealing with a lot of other business owners. What do you see in terms of the economy for 2023? Do you see a recession? Do you see stagflation? Do you see a soft landing? Do you see things getting better than now for some reason? And what do you see as the end game for the war in Ukraine? Meaning, is there a negotiated settlement? Does Ukraine kick the Russians out of everywhere, including Crimea? Does it just kind of come to a standstill, kind of like the trenches in World War One? What do you guys see as the final outcome? So I'll throw out those two questions for anybody that wants to answer. Who wants to go first? Rhoda,
Well,
you want to go first. Ladies first.
well, um, I worry about the not to get political, but about the U.S. and its role in the world, and and I feel as if we're spending a lot of money, but we're not getting our money's worth in terms of influence and not so much power, but influence for good around the world. We're not spending our dollars wisely.
Well, okay, fair enough. I agree, but then, for example, in the context of Ukraine, what would you change to change that to make it better?
I just would not blanket ship money, just keep sending money where we don't see what's happening with that money.
Okay.
You mean it's not transparent?
Hardly, it's hardly
Yeah, yeah,
transparent. I don't trust the head of the Ukraine. I think he's milking us and not necessarily doing the right thing on the ground, for anybody but himself. So I worry about that. The whole world situation is worrisome. So yes, I'm worried about that. I'm also worried about the U.S., about the general culture, because why is it that my friend goes to the drugstore and she's informed that she has to wait for 2 hours to get her medication because they only have one assistant and one pharmacist on duty in the entire busy store because they fired everybody? What's happening? In other words, why can you not get people to work and pay them fairly and have people have a work ethic? So yeah, I'm worried. I don't like what I see.
All right, fair enough. Anybody want to jump in and comment or react or?
Well, I'll make a comment about the economy. I think that most Americans are too busy watching TV and doing whatever they do. They don't foresee major hurt that's coming on this country in the very near future. I was watching a report that car sales are down significantly.
Yeah.
There's places where they have 10 football fields full of cars, and it's not due to the fact of not getting the chips from China. They got the chips, just no one's buying the cars, the new cars. If they're not buying the new cars, then people aren't trading in their used cars, so there's no used cars on the market. They showed a couple places where they sell the used cars. What do they call those things? Where I forget what it's called, but they
Are
said
you talking
these
about
lots.
Carvana?
What's that?
Are you talking about a company called Carvana?
No, Carvana is going to go out of business soon because Carvana is not. They don't have enough. Oh, no, this is true. They're going to go out of business because they don't have enough money to pay all their workers for all those little buildings they built. So they'll either go out of business or someone will buy them. But there's not enough used cars coming to the marketplace. Up in Cranberry of southwestern Pennsylvania, they have, it's an auction house, and they have like enough cars generally to cover like 10 football fields. And they showed one of them. There's like if there's 100 cars there. So because people aren't buying the new cars, they're not trading the old cars. In addition to that, the Fed keeps on raising the prime lending rate, which is going to push us into recession. They should fire the Fed chairman, whoever he is. They should hire me to be the Fed chairman because they should have started raising interest rates in September of 2020 after the country was shut down for 3 months. Okay, this bozo that let things go on and on and on, and them basically telling the American people that the inflation rate is 8%. The inflation rate is 25%. Every utility company in southwestern Pennsylvania has raised their base rates, not the supply, but the base rates by $25 to $50. So I think it's going to come to a crust sometime in 2023, probably in the first part of 2023. The stock market's going to fall from 32,000 down to about 15,000. So if you have money in the stock market, I would not so much take it out of the stock market, but call up your 401k plan, your IRA plan, and put the money into, keep it in that fund. Ask them to put it into the, what's it called, like a money market account. Because when it falls, you're going to lose half your money. And this is just a prediction, but this stuff's coming, and it's not going to be what happened in 2008 with all the mortgage meltdown, but them raising these interest rates outrageously here, that's what's causing some places not to have employees. But Rhoda, the pharmacy you're going to that doesn't have employees, you need to go to a different pharmacy. We have a grocery store in southwestern Pennsylvania called Giant Eagle, and when I go into that pharmacy, there's like 10, 15 people working there. So you're just going to the wrong pharmacy. But that's my viewpoint on the economy. Whether it'll come true or not, I hope it doesn't, but I kind of think we're heading that way. In relation to Russia and Ukraine, Uh, uh, Vladimir Putin will not stop until he has possession of the whole country of Ukraine. It'll be a sad day when he basically starts firing missiles into the other NATO countries, because that will set up World War III. But in relation to the guy that's running Ukraine, before Russia went to attack, I was reading this in one of the newspapers, that the resources that natural resources that Ukraine was getting from their country, they're like a $300 billion industry. They're getting that much out of the ground, whatever they're doing over there. Okay. Well, where did all this money go to? Okay. Who got all this money that Ukraine had from their byproducts for like the last 10 years? They invested hardly anything into a military. You know, why didn't Ukraine join NATO 5, 10 years ago? Why are they just raising the white flag now as far as, oh, boo-hoo on us because Russia's coming in to take us? But if you go back 60, 70 years, the majority of people that live in Ukraine now were under Russian, whatever, 60, 70 years ago. So it's not like Ukraine has been their own country like Poland for like the last 100 years. And I
Well,
don't know what
funny
the
enough,
answer is.
yeah, I was just reading today, and I forget where I was reading it, but that one of the reasons NATO did not want Ukraine as part of NATO was because of exactly the corruption issue. They wanted them to basically clean up sort of their governance for transparency, whatever you want to call it, for lack of a better term, before allowing them to become part of NATO. But of course, and now we are where we are. So Jeff, I don't know. What do you're connected to the financial world? What do you think about all this?
So we'll talk about finance in a second. I want to address what I think is maybe an issue that could take us to places we don't want to be. I think that issue is the extremism that goes on in the country today. I think the biggest issue that I see is the fact that people can't find common ground because they're being fed what they want to hear based on all of these uh, the way that media now separates what you get based on what you have looked at before. And so we're just being fed. I'll give you a great example. I'm very blessed that my in-laws have been able to live with us for the last few years, and my father-in-law is living with us now, and he's a great guy, and he's 94 years old, and he sits in his apartment, which is attached to the house, pretty much all day looking at the same TV channels, being fed the same news, same information, regardless of whether it leans left or leans right, it leans, right? And so he is being constantly brainwashed in one way or another. And I think we all are. I think we all go do a search on the internet. You're going to find that before you know it, you're getting a whole lot more about the stuff you were looking at. So I see that as being the biggest single problem that we have. The inability to come together and work towards solutions together. As far as the economy goes, look, we've seen the market crash much more recently over the last 2 decades. When I do my little presentation on the weekends, I show how the market rode up about 1,200% between 1980 and 2000, which, by the way, is enough that you could buy blue chip stocks, just hang on to them, collect the dividends, buy a home, send your kids to school because you were getting that kind of uh, increase. The following 2 decades, because of the crashes, that same period, instead of 1,200%, is up a total of 120%. Divide that by 20 years, and you can see where people are going to have a great deal of trouble living the lifestyle that they thought they would when they retire. The other thing is the governments have propped up the market so far for so long that sooner or later the balloon has to burst. And when it does, just take a look at a chart and look at all the white space below those candlesticks to see how far potentially we could fall. A 57% fall, which is what the 2008 fall was, a 57% fall now would bring us into territory where, like last time, people could lose their homes, their jobs, I mean, how many people took their lives? It was devastating, right? Um, so yeah, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned about it. Uh, I personally believe that it used to be considered unpatriotic to do something known as short the market, which means to bet that companies will go down and profit from that um, drop. I have a different take on it these days now that I know how to do that. And I have a plan in place that as the market crashes, I'm hopeful that me and my family will be able to make some generational money that I will use for charity as well, right? But to be able to do that. And I just think that we should all be prepared. I thought what James said was really spot on. You know, don't be don't put yourself in a position in retirement accounts where you're locked into stock accounts when you can be in a money market or some safer vehicle, because by law mutual funds are not allowed to short the market when it goes down, which is why people lost 57% of their net worth in the last crash, because we were all locked into long, meaning investments that can only go up, investments during the worst bear market of our lifetime. And it could happen again. So yeah, get help, be prepared. That's for sure.
Well, okay,
I don't
so
have
so
an
hold on,
amount.
Jeff. Let me ask you a question. Let's assume for that you want to either go into money markets or go short the market or some stocks, which is, sort of more aggressive. Uh,
Mhm.
how do you know when the market has bottomed and it's time to go long again?
So there are telltale signs. I don't want to pitch the academy I work for because that's not what this is about. But we do. There are ways that you can look at charts to see where banks and institutions are buying and selling, so that you can assume that they have much more information than we do, and try to sort of draft along with them. But I think for the most part, for the layman who's not prepared to spend the time to learn it and invest the money to learn it, I think James' advice is best. Um, get out of the market until you feel confident, that we've weathered the storm. And
Okay.
and don't be upset with yourself, because the minute you get out, you'll probably see the market rocket up for a little while, but in the end, you can't go backwards. You just have to protect yourself and protect what you've worked so hard to get.
And to that point about getting out of the market, I got out of the market back in 2007. Okay, when the market was still like, I think it was like 14,200, and I saw a lot of stuff. Some, not to say I timed the market, but I'm in part of a little investment group, and we just saw a lot of things happening, including Countrywide Mortgage that changed their charter in the United States, which they never had done for the 20 years prior to that. Anyway, so I got out then, and I didn't buy back in until I think like late 2008, 2009. So what if I didn't make any money over that year and a half, 2 year period of time? I'd rather make $0 than lose 50%. When I bought
100%.
back in, the market was down to 7,500. So I sold at 14,000 and bought back in at 7,500. I doubled my money, which was, I'm not saying I'm a crude financial advisor, but it worked for me. So now, if everyone would take their money out of their money market investments and stay with the money there, like if you're in Vanguard, just have them move the money into the money market account. So in the next year, if you don't make any money, it'd be better to make $0 than to lose any, you know? And even with the people, look at the ages on this call, it looks like everyone's over the age of 40, maybe over the age of 50. Do
We
you
can
really
stop there.
have to try to make, 15, 20% of your money now? If you've gathered $1 million, $2 million, Now's the time to find some place to stick it where you're going to make just 3%. So you preserve what you have. I do a little bit of investing also, and I have a lot of women who unfortunately lost their husbands. And they basically say to me, you know, he played the stock market all these years. I'm not sure what he did. They say, here's $500,000. Put it somewhere where I'm not going to lose the 500. I may not make that much into the future, but I don't want to lose what I have. And I think for the majority of us here, that has to be the rationale. Put it somewhere, not under your mattress, but put it somewhere where the fact that you won't lose that. Whereas if you don't do anything, so if you don't heed our advice and go back to doing whatever you're doing, watching TV, whatever the case may be, and then let's say April of next year, the market falls from 32,000 down to 15,000, you're going to say, oh, I can remember this guy, James, he said something like this might be coming. And my account, instead of having 1 million, now I have 450,000.
Okay. Well, guys, we're getting it's the 2:52. My clock just turned over here on the computer. Rhoda and/or Patrick, would you guys like the last word on this topic and tell us what you're thinking, what you're doing, and you both get the last word.
It's just it's not encouraging. That's all.
Okay. Well, are you so Rhoda, you said you were a certified financial planner at one point. I don't know if you still are. Are you thinking of staying invested? Are you thinking of going into cash? Are you thinking of being more aggressive and shorting the market or some stocks? What is
No,
your outlook?
definitely not aggressive. So I agree with James that at this stage in life, being aggressive is not a good idea. So never mind what's going on in the market. I just um, want to not ever become dependent on anyone else. I want to make sure that I take care of me and the causes that I believe in, and a little bit for the kids. So yeah, I hear that, but I'm saying the whole conversation is very pessimistic and not uplifting.
You know, Rhoda, it may seem pessimistic, but here's the point. Okay. You own a house, right? Or wherever you live at. You have windows, you have doors. When it gets cold out, you shut those doors to keep the cold out. Okay. So if someone was telling you the fact that it's going to drop down to 20 degrees tonight, you wouldn't leave your garage door open. You wouldn't let the cold come in. So I wouldn't take from what I'm saying and Jeff saying so pessimistically. We're giving you a guide point on how to protect yourself, okay, before the storm comes. Because once the stock market starts to fall, it's going to be too late. When it goes from 32,000 and hits 20,000, then you're going to say, "Oh my, what do I do? How do I, like trying to get the water out of the house as buddy. It's going to be too late.
Yeah.
All right.
And
If I
even
can
if you
add
don't make
to that,
even
and
if you
if
don't
you
make
call
money
your
for a
broker,
year, you can always go back a year from now and have the exact same position you have now.
if you
All right.
call your broker and you ask them what to do, don't be surprised when they tell you it's okay, don't worry about it, leave your money in, the market will come back, it always does, which is true. Okay. But the reason they're telling you that is because they get paid for assets under management. And if you
That's
take your
correct.
money out, there's no fees, there's no commissions, they can't use your money to make money. So money market's probably the smartest thing you can do.
Okay. Patrick, now really you get the very last word.
Right,
Sorry.
right.
I apologize.
That's really interesting, and thank you, Jeff, for that, and James and Rhoda. Well, I've always wanted to have a sense of control over the future. So how do I do that? And it's all right. There's this big economy, the world economy, the Irish economy, the English economy. But in the end of the day, it's our economy, my economy. What am I going to do? As James said, dig the well before you need it, principle. But I'm very fortunate in the company I am with because we have a unique product and people want it, and there's repeat business. So there is a residual income potential there all the time. And it's in 33 countries. So it is really, really, it is amazing me. And I feel really good about it. I found my home, you know.
Okay. So yeah, so basically you've set yourself up with recurring income, maybe a little bit of an annuity style play there. So that
Yeah,
hopefully that can help you weather the storm, which I thought James' analogy was really great. Maybe we
yeah,
can't control the weather, but we can control
yeah.
shutting down the doors and the windows and
We
the
can,
doors.
as James says, yes, yeah. So I feel I'm in a good space, but I'm not smug about it. You know, I'm not arrogant about it. I'm conscious of it, and I'm conscious of what's going on around me. But I, what are my predominant thoughts? My predominant thoughts are mostly about caring about others, and particularly my family, and what I can do for them. But I then come up against a consideration where they don't want to know, or they're not interested, or whatever. So my advice some years ago was to put on my own oxygen mask and go forward. And generate the income, and then help people out as one can, and without getting involved in, I mean, I'm not trying to convince anybody, because it's pointless. It took me years to discover this. You know, you can't change the color of somebody's eyes. I'd say Jeff knows about that.
All right. Well, listen, guys. Fair enough. It's 2:57. I want to let everybody go before 3. Thank you all for joining me, Patrick and Rhoda, who have been very good about coming, and I don't think they've missed a single meeting. James and Jeff, who are joining us for the first time. We'll do it again in January. We're going to skip the one in 2 weeks because it's literally Christmas time. So, by the way, you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, friends and family,
Bonjour.
Thank
food
you.
and good
Same to you.
presents, and we'll get together again in January at the beginning. So you guys all take care.
Nice
Easy on the
meeting
dessert.
everybody. Have a great
Okay,
holiday.
easy on the dessert. Just go easy with the dessert. You know, you'll be okay if you just go easy with the dessert.
No way. No
Patrick,
way.
All
you
right,
definitely
guys.
know
Thank you
me.
very much.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks.